Yep, that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today, guys. Should you buy or lease your next car? That's what a lot of Americans and all of us, and including myself, I asked that same exact question, and today I want to set the record straight and help you out on buying or leasing your next car. Check it out. There's a lot of incorrect information out there about leasing cars. The majority of people buy their cars, but there are a lot of us out there that lease our cars. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with leasing a car. A lot of people go, oh, well, you can't afford the car, so you probably lease your car. Ha ha ha. Or the other people are like, well, I just buy my car. I don't need to lease. All of that is just ridiculous because there are so many finance incentives as well as accounting incentives with leasing cars. So if you are considering leasing a car, let's talk about the pros and cons of leasing a car. So first, let's talk about some of the pros to leasing if you're even considering leasing a car. So some of the first highlights of leasing a car is your monthly payments generally are lower with leasing a car because one, you're not outright buying the car, you're buying the depreciation of the use, meaning typically your terms are 2-3 years, 36 months, whatever that looks like between you and the dealership, as well as how many miles. So a lot of times it's either 8, 10, 12,000 miles, and whatever works for you. Again, you're only paying for the depreciation, so a lot of times your payments are lower. Additionally, there's another incentive that you should consider. You're going to have lower maintenance because a lot of times you're going to be driving a brand new car, and that car lease goes for 2 to 3 years, and most of the time you're going to trade that in and get another new car. So very rarely will you have any maintenance issues because most of these cars have a full bumper-to-bumper factory warranty in that first 2 to 3 years. So you'll not only get a lower car payment, you're going to have no maintenance issues whatsoever on that car. And thirdly, when you get a lease, you already know the value or the residual value of that contracted price on that car. So if the market's up or down, you can then decide, well, I'll buy the car because I'm in a good position equity-wise, and if the market is bad, then you can give the keys back and say, nah, I'm not going to buy this car. I'm going to wait this market out and get a better deal. So those are my 3 favorite highlights and pros about leasing a car. So with leasing, there are also cons to those pros. And one of the first cons is you will likely be renting that car, i.e. a lease. So after your 2 to 3 years contract is done, you're either going to buy the car off a lease or you're going to trade the keys back in. For most people, they trade the keys back in and get into a new lease. So therefore, you're always going to have a car payment. So think of it like renting. You're never really contributing to the equity basis of buying and owning the car outright to own someday. And that's okay, but you still have the option to do it, but for the most part, you're going to always have a car payment. One of the second cons to that is, just like all contracts, there are specified mileage and years to have that car in place. And if you go over that mileage, you're going to get dinged for that. And a lot of times that can be up to 25, 35 cents a mile. So that adds to a little bit of the pain point to leasing. And thirdly, when you're leasing a car, it can also be pretty expensive when trading in the car because some dealers will hit you with like, oh, well, the fabric's dinged up, or you dinged the door here, or you're going to have to pay this new fee to bring it in and get the next car, and they'll just add these dealer fees on you, and that can kind of be a bit of a bummer. Not all dealers do this. They want to trade cars in and out, and they might not hit you with that, but it can turn into a con, meaning you'll get hit with some miscellaneous fees for scratching or going over the mileage and such like that. So just keep that in consideration as a con when you're considering doing a lease for your car. So you're probably sitting there, well, that's great information, Matthew, but it still doesn't answer the question, should I lease a car? Well, let me give you some perspective, and I'll tell you my story about why I leased my most recent car, and maybe this will help you make your decision. Now, before I begin, understand that there are some advantages to leasing cars if you own a business. For example, you can write that lease payment off through your business. That is not the sole reason I did my lease. Let me share this little information or tidbit as I may, given the market conditions that we currently are in. So if you're just now watching this video and it's in 2023, this will give you a little more perspective of why I leased this car, and then use it to see if it works for you. So with that story, this is why I leased my car. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the 10-year treasury is what's based on a lot of interest rates. So when you're borrowing for a mortgage on a house or getting an auto loan, the 10-year treasury is based on what the interest rate you'll get on procuring that, either that home or this car. And for me, for a car, you'll know that, wow, rates have gone up quite a bit this year in 2023, and it's kind of a bummer, and it's making cars very expensive right now. So much so that a lot of Americans are having a hard time even affording to buy a car, let alone what is this impact doing to the used car market? Well, this is Carvana stock. It got crushed. Why did Carvana lose so much money? Well, They bought a lot of cars in 2021 and 2022, and when interest rates went up, guess what happens? When rates go up and a lot less buyers can afford to buy cars, especially on the used car market, which is what Carvana deals in primarily, usually the price of cars start going down, and when you've bought a lot of overweight stock that's priced here and it's selling for a lot less, well, you kind of get the picture. Things start to go down and down quickly. So as interest rates continue to rise, because the Fed is starting to raise rates because they want to get inflation down, meaning the prices of homes and cars to go down in price, as well as the groceries that you buy in the store, all of this starts to lead to an impact on Carvana and auto dealers, because they just can't sell at the basis or the price that they once were accustomed to. All of this market adjustment nonsense pricing is out the window. So if you were buying a car at MSRP, better be careful, because those cars are going to start going down in value and fast. So given all that information, what did that mean to me? Well, when I was looking at getting my next car, I wasn't about to go buy a car knowing what we've just seen in the recent charts with Carvana and with interest rates rising. All of these things are telling me and having little signs go off in my head, hey, Matthew, car prices are going to start falling, albeit in the short term, they have gone up a little bit in the used market, but I think that's short-lived. If that is the case, and I truly believe my sentiment and I believe it's leading me to the right direction, car prices are going to continue to fall over the next 24 months. I don't want to be holding the debt on a car on a 5, 6, 7 year, whatever, ownership tag on that. I don't want anything to do with that debt. You know what I want? I want the bank to own that debt, so I should probably consider doing a lease. So everyone who ran out there and got a new truck or car in 2020, 2021, 22, whatever, and they got their 60-month, 72-month, 84-month financing, guess what? That note has chain cuffed them to that debt. They own that debt. And so when I went to the car dealership, I told the car salesman, yeah, I want a lease. And he was like, you want a lease? And I said, yeah, I want a lease. And the car guy goes, well, Matthew, the money factor and the lease interest rates are higher than buying. You want to buy right now. We're incentivizing people to buy. Why do you want a lease? And this is what I told him. If I buy right now, I essentially own that debt. And if car prices continue to do what I think they're going to do over the next 2 years, they're going to continue to fall. And what's going to happen to my position? I'm going to be in what's called negative equity. I don't want that. And the majority of Americans fall victim to being in negative equity and owing more on the car than what the car is worth. But by me leasing the car, the bank owns that debt. And guess what happens? If this car is worth less, which it might very well be, guess what? You, my friend, you can have the keys back because it's not my debt. So remember that, folks. The reason the money factors and the rates on leasing are higher is the banks know this. They do not want to own that debt. If anything, they want to push it onto you, because if that car comes back in 2 to 3 years off that lease and it's worth less, they have to figure out how to sell it. You might pay more on a little bit of interest rate right now to lease a car. But guess what's going to happen? Do I need to show you the chart? This shit right here is going to continue to happen, because if interest rates continue to rise, which they very well could to get inflation down, cars are going to continue to slide down in price. You do not want to own that debt right now. It is not a good time. So in closing, folks, if you are able to lease a car right now, granted, you might pay a little bit higher interest rate right now, but remember what I told you. You might pay a little more up front, but it's a hell of a lot less pain if you own that car and in 2 years, say you bought a car for $40,000 and it's now worth $10,000 less, and you thought, wow, I didn't think it would be down that much. Well, guess what? That situation doesn't happen if you lease. You can simply give the keys back. Think of it like a call option in the stock market. You don't own the stock, but you reserve the right to buy the stock at that price, i.e. a call option. Leasing right now is a little more pricey, but it might be your best bet right now in the car market. So just consider that next time you are considering leasing or buying your next car. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching. Please jump in the comments. Let me know if you have leased a car, it has worked out well for you, or maybe it hasn't worked out well for you. The comments are a great place for us all to learn and to pass information along to one another to help each other in buying and leasing cars. So, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you got value out of this video. And until next time, I'll see you again.